Do you know what? I've got my notepad with me today. I've got my notepad. I've got my notes. My notes are long. My notes are mad long about this situation. You see, when I start today, I'm just taking down pure notes to reflect on as people start chucking their comments in. My name is Mashal St. Patrick Hewitt. I'm one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Welcome to another Rumshot Diaries Cuss Out. I've got no energy in my voice because we're emotional out here. West Indies fans worldwide, we're emotional. Things haven't gone to plan. We're 0-2. World Cup's looking peak. But it isn't over. We can still win the World Cup. It isn't over. With 3 wins, you never know. You never know. And to be honest, the first part of the equation has been fulfilled for us. England needed to win today against Bangladesh. So that basically means that Bangladesh are as useless as us right now. So Bangladesh aren't going through. We know that much. They're not going to win there. They're not going to beat South Africa, us, and Australia. Famous last words, but they're not going to, okay? So let me first and foremost big up everybody who's in the comments. This one's a bit earlier than normal, so I wasn't sure how many people could actually make this time. Obviously, if you're in the UK, then work's kind of just about ending. Loads of us work from home, not me, but loads of us work from home. So the first thing I'm going to do before I forget, and by the way, and by the way, we have a special guest today. Dino is joining us from Trinidad. So Dino said, just start it all off. He's going to be joining us in about 10 minutes or so. So Dino will be here giving us his take on proceedings as well. Do you know what? I forgot to plug in my microphone. So give me 1 second because I'm clearer when the mic is in. So bear with me, people. Let's see if this works. Can you not hear me? Someone just give me a thumbs up and let me know if this is clear and whatnot. Forgot to put the mic in. So yeah, as I was saying, let me first and foremost read out the permutations before we get into the game and talk about whatever we need to talk about. Okay. So first things first, big up Brian Statham. I don't know if he's on the live. Brian, if you are, then jump in and let me big you up. But Brian Statham, he has given me the rundown of what West Indies need to do. So let's not even get into what West Indies need. Let's not get into what happened against South Africa yet. Let's get into what West Indies need to do because we're still mathematically in this competition. So write this down, people. I should probably have written it and put it up as a banner. Write this down. This is what we need to do in order to win. Wait a minute. What? Oh, my God. Well, I'm just going to read out what Brian put because that means actually it can't work. Brian says this is one possible calculation. Bangladesh have to beat England, but that never happened. So already I'm like, so wait, I can't read this out. But he's put Bangladesh have to beat England and South Africa and then lose to us and Australia. That would leave Bangladesh on 4 points. Sri Lanka have to beat South Africa and lose to Australia and us and England. That would leave Sri Lanka on 4 points. England have to beat Sri Lanka and lose to Bangladesh, but they've just won. So I'm going to disagree with what Brian said. England beat Sri Lanka, beat Bangladesh, beat Australia, beat South Africa. Obviously, they'll end up on 10 points. South Africa have to beat England, but lose to Bangladesh and Sri Lanka. That would leave them on 4. He's then gone for the option of Australia winning all of their games. That would leave them on 8. Something's got to happen whereby Australia can only win one more. I don't know how this all works. Basically, we need to win all of our games. Because I was just reading that and my head hurts. We need to win all of our games and smash everybody up and then just pray to Jah. That's all we can do, That's all we can do right now. Only Jah can help us right now. So we just need to win all of our games and win at least 2 of them really well. And you never know, something might happen. But first things first, let's break down the South Africa game. Let's break that game down. I don't even actually know where to start if I'm honest with you. But okay, let's break this down by just going through the game first and foremost. Then I'm going to go into all these key points I've written down on my notes. In terms of the game, was the game a disaster? Yes and no. No, in so much as, before I get on to Lendl Simmons, no, in so much as at the end of the power play, West Indies were 43 for none of 6 overs, obviously down to Evan Lewis. Lendl was stinking up the place, but we were still 43 for none at the end of the 6 overs. And the reason why that's important to point out is South Africa were 43 for 1 at the end of their 6 overs. So actually, at the end of the power play, a foundation had been set. If you had stopped the game at the end of the power play, it wasn't a disaster. The disaster was what happened between overs number 6 to about overs number 14. I can't remember the exact over Simmons got out in, but every single over from the power play onwards, he lost us the match. That's the reality of the situation. I was watching it because I was on my way to Nottingham at the time, and I was watching it on my phone. And like everybody else, and every now and again, it was coming out the video I was watching on my phone to tweet something on internet, and I couldn't believe what Simmons was doing. It got to a point with Simmons where I was like, bro, get yourself out. What are you doing? And I'm sure all of you were thinking the same thing. From about the 7th over, I was like, what are you actually doing though, Lendl? Get yourself out. And where I question Phil, or it's got to be Phil, you can't put it on Pollard. The captain doesn't control the tactics. Where I question Phil, or whatever the think tank was back in the West Indies dugout or dressing room, where was the person who went out? And maybe this happened, but where was the person who went out to Lendl and said, you know what, bro, you're sucking the life out the innings. Either hit out or get bowled, like deliberately get yourself bowled out. Do something other than what you're doing. Just do something. And I couldn't believe what I was watching. And the worst thing is, I was speaking to a journalist whose name I'll leave the journalist unnamed. He's based here, and I said to him, Lendl was so bad he couldn't even get himself out, and I genuinely believe that. That's how bad his innings was. He was timing the ball so poorly he couldn't even do anything to get himself out. The only thing Lendl could have done to get himself out in that situation was just stand there and let the ball just hit the wicket. But you can't do that live on TV. You can't do that. As much as his innings sucked, he would have got, listen, the drama that would have dropped on his head if he'd done that, it weren't worth it. But I hope you'll understand when I'm saying he couldn't even time the ball, so he couldn't do anything to get himself out. He should have done. It's mad. It's mad. So really and truly for me, whatever over it was that Lendl got out, and actually, let me get the first comment up for today. Richard, I agree, Richard. He was trying to play an anchor role. He actually was. And do you know who I blame for Lendl doing that? All of you lot as fans. You lot as fans and the media, you were so stuck on this idea that someone's got to play the anchor role that Lendl really came and showed you how an anchor role in T20 just stinks up the innings. I was just watching this guy going, oh my God, this is why you don't talk about anchor in T20 cricket. Look at this man trying to play a test innings in a T20 World Cup match. Oh my God. And the worst thing is, Lendl actually got out at the worst time, because if your instructions were to bat through the innings, at that point, he just needed to bat through the innings. And then when he got out, there was only like 7 overs left. So he actually got out at the worst time, because it meant that everybody who came after Lewis got out had to go from ball 1, because Lendl had taken up and soaked up so many balls. Pooran had done. It made sense. Lots of people have said, why did Pooran come before Hetmeyer? And I get why there's an argument about it, right? People are going to say Hetmeyer's in form and da-da-da-da-da. To me, it's much of a muchness, right? I agreed with sending Pooran. The reason why is because I think Pooran can accelerate immediately, whereas Hetmeyer takes a few balls to get going. Don't worry about why Pooran came or why Hetmeyer didn't come. You have to look at Lendl's innings, because Lendl's innings messed up what we were then doing in the dressing room. Gale couldn't come out next. There was no way he could, because when Lendl, by the time Lewis got out, the innings needed to accelerate. Gale doesn't go from ball one, so it made sense that Gale didn't come. To me, it made sense that Hetmeyer didn't come, because Hetmeyer is a let's run some ones and twos. But the risk of Hetmeyer running ones and twos is it would put Lendl back on strike. So Pooran had to come, because Pooran, you at least know, is going to go, right, ball one, I'm just going to start smashing. And in fairness to Pooran, he did. He got 12 runs from 6 balls and then got out. Then Gale came. Now, it didn't suit. I wouldn't have brought Gale in next, honestly. By the time, and if you go back and follow the Twitter feed, I tweeted and said, once Pooran gets out, send Pollard or Russell, because the method had been set at that point. We needed players who can go from ball one. And to me, that's Russell. But again, this all goes back to Simmons sucking out the innings. Chatil, you're not following the point. Yeah, Hetmeyer struck at 168, but Hetmeyer didn't strike at 168 just immediately going from ball one. He struck at 168 when a great foundation was set by his team. There was no great foundation set because Simmons had sucked the life out of the innings. So, yes, I see what you're saying about, okay, in IPL, but he's playing in a better team in IPL. There was no real foundation here. We needed people who could go right away. Pooran's better at that. Russell is better at that than Hetmeyer. That doesn't mean Hetmeyer should have come as low as he did. I would have put Hetmeyer in before I brought Gale in, personally. But whatever, it was a mess by that point. It was a real mess. Pollard tried his best. I know people have their agenda against Gale. Gale tried his best to start. He hit a 1-6. So everybody who came in tried to get going. Pooran hit 12 off 6. Pollard hit 26 off 19. Gale hit a 13 off 13. Russell hit 5 off 2. Hetmeyer got out straight away. But all of them had to play like that because Simmons put them in a position where everyone had to play like that. That's my personal opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying that the depth of how bad Simmons' innings was cannot be underestimated. It screwed up the whole game plan from about the 13th over onwards because everybody was coming in trying to make up for lost time. But again, that's my personal opinion. I'm not saying I'm right. That's just how I saw it. So I'm not really looking at what Pooran, Gale, Pollard, Russell, Hetmeyer did or didn't do. They were caught in a bind where they didn't really have an option. And it was either going to come off or it wasn't going to come off. Alpheus, sorry, I haven't put many comments up. Alpheus saying, but Pooran's not informed. Irrelevant. In that situation, I couldn't care less who's not informed. Every man had to come in and swing their bat. Not informed is irrelevant at that stage. The man Simmons put everybody under pressure to swing their bat. So anyways, those who are watching from the start, 143 was never going to be enough. That, to me, that was a 160 minimum pitch. Minimum. And even then, we probably would have lost with 160. Okay. So, and I saw somebody put up in the comments, what about Markram's maiden over and this and the other. I'm not even bothered about that because remember what I said. At the end of the power play, we were 43 for none. South Africa were 43 for 1 at the end of their power play. So we don't... Markram's... Yeah. I mean, yeah, he got a dot ball over, but then he went for 18 off another over. So it is what it is. That's 9. Average it and it's 9 apiece. Okay. So... Yes, Sachin. I feel sorry for all the people in the Caribbean who woke up to see Simmons play a test innings. I'm sure that you lot, you're rubbing the matter out your eyes and you couldn't believe what you were seeing. I couldn't believe I was seeing, but at least it was 12 o'clock in England. So yeah, the 140 was never going to be enough. The bowling, let's move on now from the batting because, it kind of is what it is. The bowling... Well, listen, McCoy apparently had a niggle. Once Obed was out, I was worried because I was like, well, boy, Obed's variations are going to be missed out here. If you immediately knew that only Bravo was going to be intelligent enough to bowl different types of variations and off-cutters and this and the other. Ravi as well. Ravi was fine in the power play. Akil was fine in the power play. I think we got the run out. Akil then took a wicket after the power play. Yeah, contact. You just stole the words out of my eyes. The bowling just wasn't threatening. If we're gonna call it as we should call it, it just wasn't threatening. At no point in the South African innings did I think we got this. The best I was hoping for was that we might bowl some. There was a short period where we were bowling overs for like 5 off the over, and I was like, okay, maybe pressure might build. Maybe a little pressure might build. But do you know what the problem was yesterday with the bowling? We had no strike bowler. And I don't mean that as a criticism of Ravi. When I say strike bowler, I mean someone with pace. So before you lot try and jump to this is where we missed Jason Holder. No, you're missing my point. What we needed yesterday was someone with genuine hostile pace. We didn't have that. Now, obviously, O'Shane Thomas is a person in the squad. I don't trust O'Shane Thomas, but he's the only one with the hostile pace. So don't jump into the chat now, people, and say, this is why Holder, this is why Holder. Yesterday wouldn't have been solved by Holder either. What was missing in that bowling attack yesterday was someone who could hit hard lengths, and that's O'Shane Thomas. I wouldn't have had him, but he's the only person in the squad who could have done that. So if you're talking about, God, here we go. See, it's always predictable to know who's going to bring up the Holder argument. Holder, listen, everybody looks better when they're not playing. Everyone looks better when they're not playing. The reality is, look who did well bowling yesterday. Nortje. What did he go for? What, 11 runs? The best bowler on the pitch yesterday was someone with genuine pace. Shamsi, we took man. Listen, we attacked man. I had to respect them for attacking Shamsi, though. We attacked Shamsi. But the best bowler on the day was the bowler with the most hostile pace. We didn't have that. So you lot can't say to me, oh, Holder would have done something. And then you say that on one hand, and then you're saying the bowling wasn't threatening. Holder's not going to give you that pace either. Everybody looks better when they're not playing. So the reality is we needed a pace man. We all know that O'Shane's a pace man, but we all know that O'Shane goes for enough licks. So I don't know. I don't know, you know. I don't know the answer. All I know is we had no pace on the pitch yesterday. And we missed Obed McCoy. Because the reality is, if this is what I think it is, by the way, Brian, if this is Brian, as in my good friend Brian from Walmers back in the day, if there's any Jamaicans on the feed, I went to Walmers Boys School in Kingston. Some of you might not know that. Well, I did my A-levels at Walmers. So if this is my friend Brian from back in the day in Walmers, big up Brian. Our tactics were wrong. Our best player should bat the most overs. Yeah, you're correct, Brian. I think Pollard should come earlier in the order. That's another argument I'm going to come to in a minute. That's if I think it is Brian from back in Walmers days. So what was I saying? Yeah, we missed McCoy, and the replacement for McCoy was Hayden Walsh. And if you're bringing in a leg spinner for if you're bringing in a leg spinner for Obed McCoy, the leg spinner has to be a wicket taker. And don't get me wrong, Hayden has proven in the past that he's a wicket taker, but he's got to be a strike bowler. What we needed Hayden to do yesterday was be a strike bowler, but he didn't strike with any wickets. He was fine in his first couple of overs, but he didn't strike with any wickets. So yesterday we missed a strike bowler. Ravi was fine in the power play, but we didn't take any wickets after that power. Well, we took one, but nobody else came in to take wickets after the power play. So it's not about looking at Ravi and saying, this is why Ravi Rampal shouldn't be in the team. We didn't have a strike bowler yesterday. So, you know, anyways, people, I've kind of done a bit of an intro. I haven't even got to my main points that I want to get into, believe it or not. But I said at the start of the show that Dino was going to join us from Trini, or from Trinidad and Tobago, I should say. But Dino's in the background, so I'm going to bring him in. Santoki is still in Dubai, so he can't join us anytime soon. He'll be back next week, I think. Yeah, let me bring in Dino. Just bring in a couple of comments before Dino. James Allen, Holder wouldn't have made a difference, guys. No offense. Maybe he could have played, but it wouldn't have made a difference. I agree, James. I don't think it would have made much difference. Garvin, if this is Garvin, who I think it is, by the way, big up Garvin. O'Shane Thomas is a wild man. But it's risk and reward. It's true, though. It's true. Listen, Garvin, it's true. Yesterday's match was calling out for the wild man. High risk, high reward. So yeah, and on that note, from where is it? Renell, big up Dino indeed. So let's bring him in. Yes, Dino, what you saying?
All good, all good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we're all good, man. We're all
All
good.
right.
Let me bring you up to speed, Dino, in terms of what I've spoken about so far. Looked at the match yesterday, the batting and the bowling. There's a few wider issues that I want to get into, which I'm going to actually, now you've come on, I'm going to question you about those particular issues. But first things first, boy, talk to me, Dino. What did you think about that match yesterday?
Oh, wow. A lot of runs short from where we started from, and really disappointing middle over bowling there, and that just sums it up simply. I've been listening. I was in my car listening on the way here, so I heard everything you were talking about, and I mean, you're spot on as usual. I'm interested to know what points you have written down. You said you didn't get to those, so I want to know. But you know, things that stood out for me. Obviously, Simmons is a talking point, and let me just say on the whole Simmons thing, it's clear that West Indies went into the game saying we don't want to lose wickets in the power play, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's clear that that's what Simmons was doing. It's clear to me that Simmons also is a guy that I've seen in every type of cricket, whether it be CPL, IPL, that has bat through the inning from number one all the way to 20. He's done it before. He's won games doing that. Not as often in T20 as we like to, but he has done it before. So, like Pollard said, he got stuck. He did get stuck between trying to not lose his wicket in the power play and then caught in two minds of acceleration or bat through the inning. So that's what happened to Simmons. It's really clear to see that that's what happened. All right. And then when who got out first? Lewis got out.
Lewis, yeah.
So they replaced Lewis directly with a left-hander, Puran, to take on the ball and to continue attacking like West Indies always do. It's interesting if Simmons had got out, if Pollard would have come in as a right-hander. That would have been interesting to me, whereas it was Lewis, the left-hander, that got out. And then,
Dino, can I jump in there?
Sure, sorry.
I'm so glad you said that, because that's what I put on Twitter when. So I was watching on my phone and kind of trying to go between Twitter and my phone at the same time. And before Lewis got out, I said the next person in should be Pollard or Russell, because I just assumed Simmons was going to just give his wicket away on purpose because he was going so slow. I was like, surely now Simmons is just going to deliberately get himself out. So I'm glad to hear you say if Simmons had gone, who would have come next? Because I thought it should be a right-hander as well, but Simmons lasted longer than I anticipated him lasting, and then made no runs at the same time.
Yeah, for sure. Again, agreed. I would have liked to see Pollard in that role had it been Simmons. And it brings up now, in that point, the Gale issue. Gale bat at 4, Hetmeyer was 7? So obviously Gale came in because a left-hander got out, which was Puran, and it's like for like. Again, it would have been interesting had it been a right-hander, what would have happened. But now Gale 12 from 12, last game 13 from 13. Now, come on, Gale, is it working out for Gale? As much as we look at Simmons as well, is it working out for Gale in his role? Is it working out for Simmons in his role? Look, I don't see Gale in the middle overs being that guy, right? I see him at the top doing it. I don't want to reinforce the point, but look, Gale and Lewis have opened together in Bangladesh, have opened together for their franchises, and they've been pretty successful. They've done it in the power play, and these guys just need 6 overs together, But look, the West Indies it's no surprise Simmons is opening. We've seen them build up to this World Cup over the last year, or maybe more than that, over the series, and we saw what they were doing. This was their plan. Gale at 3 all the time. They were preparing this. So as fans, you saw this coming in all the previous series. So don't be too surprised that it just didn't work here now in the World Cup. All right. The guys had all their plans. That's with the batting. So, just with the bowling, yes, they didn't start as effectively, but Rampal and Hussein did well. When Russell came in, it was like, what, Russell in the power play?
Yeah.
Even the first over, you would have thought that, okay, it didn't work, someone else then. But they stuck with Russell. He was expensive. Hayden Walsh was expensive, and that really lost the game for the guys. Obed with the injury is a big blow in this situation against South Africa. So I think that's as simple as it is. We know that we didn't get enough runs. At one point, 160 plus would have been on the cards. It never materialized, and that's what it is. This is the best we can do. When I saw the South Africa starting lineup, I thought, okay, we got this. We're in with a really good chance to win this. It is what it is now. That's the breakdown. That's what I saw. Just try to add on, what you did, man.
Most definitely. And loads of comments came in as you were chatting, Dino. So I just want to address one or two of them. Where did I see this one now? Ronald says, you are arguing out both sides of your mouth. I think this is at me, not you, Dino, because you didn't mention him. How on earth can you know that Jason Holder wouldn't have made a difference? Ronald, fair. But how do you know he would have made a difference? My point is it's irrelevant. Everybody looks like they can make a difference when they're not playing in a match. Personally, for me, the best bowler on the pitch was the bowler who had the most pace, which was Nortje. We just had medium pace bowlers. And then as Dino alluded to, Hayden didn't look threatening. Russell actually was probably our quickest bowler yesterday. He was expensive. I just felt like, because remember the danger man before the match, we all assumed it would be Shamsi. Credit to the team. They obviously came up with a plan to attack Shamsi. So I have to rate them for that one. They didn't go into their shell against Shamsi, and clearly it was something they had discussed because they actually batted him out of the attack. He didn't bowl his full allocation. So credit to them. They learned something from the summer. But it was Nortje who was the difference in terms of bowling hard lengths, which is something we've actually struggled with as well as spin. But where are we? There's another comment. Give me a second. Where is it now?
Yeah, man, I like reading the comment.
Here we go. Ronald again. You don't want to accept that Gale has come to his end his tether. Listen, Ronald, tired of this argument. I'm tired to the point where I'm tired. If you think that Chris Gale is the biggest problem in this side, you're not studying things properly. He is not. I'm not saying he's not a problem, but he's not the one specific problem in this side. And anybody who comes to me with the Gale argument, it always suggests to me that you're not looking at the entire picture, because and that's what this other stuff is that I've written down. To me, there's a few bigger issues than just targeting Gale as the sole issue to deal with. But let me get into it. Right. So issue number one. And I'm glad you kind of mentioned it, Dino. So I wrote down a few issues, which I now say, forget South Africa. Let's take England, South Africa. And if you want to, we can even go all the way back to the summer series. These are the underlying issues that I believe the West Indies team have. Firstly, the openers, right? Evan Lewis, we don't need to talk about, but the first issue is it the right opening partnership? For me personally, at this point of the tournament, and loads of you said it, so this isn't anything new. Lots of people said that if Gale is going to play, let Gale open to allow another space to open up. At this point of the tournament, with Lendl having struggled in the first game, obviously, as Dino suggested, he was caught between a rock and a hard place yesterday, couldn't get out of the mentality of I've got to bat for the innings. Me personally, I'm bringing Chris in to open in the next match. As Dino alluded to, Chris and Evan have opened together. So they just did it in CPL. In the back end of CPL for St. Kitts, Chris went back to open with Evan. And actually, he looked better in the tournament opening with Evan than he did at number 3 for St. Kitts. So for me, Chris and Evan must now open. I saw a few of you put in Andre Fletcher. You lot must be mad, right? You lot must be mad. You have to be mad. Because if you think Simmons gets stuck, you see when other teams see Fletcher, they're opening up with spin immediately. Do you lot study this game? You must know they're going to open up with spin if Fletcher is opening. That can't happen. It's got to be, don't get me wrong, if Fletcher gets off, he goes quick from the start. But if Fletcher's like Simmons to me, if he gets bogged down, he gets bogged down. So to me, it's Gale and Lewis. So that's the first point, Dino. Where do you stand on that? Your openers.
Yeah, I mean, I said publicly, I think Gale Lewis is the way to go. It's clear in the last game that they tried to rotate left and right. If West Indies is a high-risk team, so if you're going to take the risk with 2 left-handers. Let that be the only risk, and you're pretty settled in the middle. power play is a risky time anyway, and you would back Lewis and Gale in that power play. Come on, this is their bread and butter. 6 overs, man. That's their career is built in that 6 overs. So I don't see you. It's the same reason you would never take Lewis out of that opening partnership and put him at 3. Why? Because he's been so successful doing it there. Why would you do that? So I feel it for Simmons in a sense because he's been floating around how to get him in the team. You know what I mean? But yeah, you make a good point with Spiceman. Will Spiceman be an improvement? I'm sure he's raring to go. Anybody on the bench is probably licking their lips saying, I might be in next. But it's a tough decision. I would prefer the Gale and Lewis, honestly, but I really think with what happened with Simmons over the last 2 games that Spiceman is there for a reason. It's probably a like for like sub Simmons to Spice. And if you look at, like I say with Gale, it's no surprise Gale is at 3 because all the series coming into the World Cup where they were preparing, this is what they did. And Andre Fletcher was the like for Lendl Simmons during this time. So I think that's what they will do. They won't try to panic and do anything that was not part of their plans over the last year.
Boy, Adrian says no to Fletcher and I'm Grenadier. So, but I never know how to pronounce your name, Is it Carly or Carlisle? But anyways, Carlisle, I'm going to say Carlisle. Dino's not on Twitter, I
did. I'm on Twitter. It's Crick Dino, CRIC.
Oh, is that new? You weren't on
Twitter.
That
new. That's new. I'm ready to get in trouble on Twitter. Let's go.
Okay. So people, you heard it here first. Crick Dino. Is that underscore Dino or just one?
Nah, just Crick Dino. Just like I'm going to be bigger than ESPN, man. Let's do this.
Okay, Crick Dino, people. Everyone, straight after this video ends or during it, go follow Dino now. We're not even following him yet because I just found out the same time as everybody else. So, Crick Dino, go start following Dino, please, people. What was I saying? So, my second issue. My second issue is West Indies in the middle overs. Oh, sorry, no. Before I get into that, I just wanted to address the other issue of openers that I wanted to address. The point I'm going to make now for people is a wider point that relates to the West Indies team in general. I wrote a long thread about this on Twitter last night. It was the last thing I wrote before I went to bed, right? And the synopsis of that thread that I wrote was basically, has this tournament proved to be one step too far for our goats of the game, the Russells, the Ryan's not even there, the Gales, the Bravos, or whatever, possibly. But what people have to understand is this. One of the reasons why someone like a Gale and a Russell and a Bravo and a this and a that is there is because, with all due respect to the other players in the Caribbean, they haven't produced the goods, right? By all rights, a 42-year-old Chris Gale should not be in our World Cup squad. If we talk rationally and we talk based on paper, even with Chris's massive achievements in the game and the 14,000 runs, because Chris is 42, he shouldn't be there. But rather than cuss Chris, I think we have to look at where are the young guns? Because they should have put Chris in a position where he could never get into the squad. So when I look at the wide, and this is the first wider issue point I really think we need to talk about as West Indies fans. Bravo's fantastic. And Dwayne Bravo, when he retires after this World Cup, I want all Caribbeans to give that man his flowers, because Dwayne Bravo has done a lot for West Indies cricket and lost so much of his career and has still done a lot for West Indies cricket, right? But Bravo at 38 should not have been in the West Indies squad, but nobody has stepped up. So Bravo is still the best player in the Caribbean at what he does. No young gun has stepped up to say, no, a 38-year-old man can't get in the team instead of me. Who's stepping up? So as much as we can say the squad this and the squad that, and how did they take this man and why did they take this man, until the young guns show consistency, and I'm stressing that word, consistency. It's not enough for me. I'm not a selector, but if I was a selector, it's not enough for me for as a selector for someone to go, look what I'm going to pick Dean Smith. So Dean Smith is someone I expect to see in West Indies 2020 squad starting from the England T20s onwards, right? I expect to see that, and I'll be shocked if he isn't. But on Dean Smith, I know, Dino, you know him well enough, so I'm talking to someone who doesn't know him. Dean Smith, I would like to believe, if I ever had a one-to-one with him, would freely admit, I haven't done enough consistently to force my way into the West Indies team. He just had a brilliant CPL. But the question we have to ask ourselves is it enough to just have one good CPL and then you're just straight into the West Indies team? Or do you have to show consistency over a period of time to make people believe you're ready for that step up? And I think too many of you, not necessarily in this chat, but I'm going to say Caribbean fans, see the latest flash in the pan and say, call up my man, he's next. And I'm like, but where's the consistency? What's the stats you're basing that on? Where's the T20 leagues you've seen them play other than a one CPL season? So loads of you, for example, are going, where's Dominic Drakes? He should have been in the squad. If Dominic Drakes hadn't hit that match-winning innings in the CPL final, would you even have mentioned his name? Stop it, people. Stop that. Dino, sorry, I'm going up on one, Dino.
I hear you, man. I hear you. I know it can be frustrating doing that, but again, you're right. Guys have to prove themselves. Odin Smith just had a breakout season. How he's been around CPL, but he hasn't played an entire season, and this is the first time he's done it. Does that merit a World Cup, straight into a World Cup? I want to reel it back to something you said earlier about the older guys in the team. I'm going to say it publicly, right? Look, does Lendl, Simmons, Chris Gale, and who's the third one?
Russell.
Dwayne Bravo.
Okay.
Dwayne Bravo, and to some extent Ravi Rampal, right? So these four guys in the team as experienced guys. Personally, I would have had an ideal situation, have these four guys on the bench and have my starting guys doing it with the guidance of these guys, and have these four experienced guys as backup and as mentors to the guys that are starting a team. That is an ideal situation for a World Cup team. And that is justifying carrying these guys. But you carry these guys at this age, expecting them to lead the charge every single game, is proven now to be a little too much for them. We have to face the facts. All right. We prepared with this team over a year, over several series. You guys as fans saw it. All right. You saw what they were doing, what they were planning, what they were tactics. I looked at everything. So nothing in this World Cup is a surprise to me. Honestly, it's not a surprise. We are disappointed with the results. All of us expected more from this team. Like I said, I will reiterate, I would have loved to have the experienced guy on the bench to say, okay, maybe the youngster didn't go so well this match. I'll step in for the next game, help him through it, and get him back into the World Cup again. I think that is the best role for experienced guys, instead of having them lead the charge against 5 tough teams day in, day out. There's not much turnover in between. That's just it on the batting, the middle overs, and those guys. And the point you make: do we have youngsters that have had 2 consistent CPL seasons, or a season abroad in another league, that they have been consistent in? So that's where it is. We kind of had to go with it.
Yeah, and lots of you put up comments. There was some I wanted to put up. I wanted Dino to finish off his point. All I will always say to people is, it's not enough to you to just call me a name. Call me a name with stats. You can call me a Shafane Rutherford, and do you know why? Because Shafane Rutherford has played in PSL as well. Shafane Rutherford has global T20 experience. Call his name, and I'll back that. I would have had Shafane Rutherford in my squad. But you know what? Shafane Rutherford didn't make himself available for a fitness test. That's his problem. But I would have had him in my squad, right? But I can't have some of you saying to me, bringing Kanar Lewis. Are you mad? No.
That's madness. Come on. I know. Come on. I have to say.
No. And I think you lot must understand. Look, you, Shandapur Hemraj. No. Because these players haven't. If you have the choice between an experienced player that has done it at the top level versus someone that has sporadically shown you bits and pieces, you're gonna go with the experienced guy every time. By rights. Okay. I just look at you lot making me get hot, man. I'm getting hot under the collar right now. But by rights, Brandon King should have been at this World Cup. Let me explain what I mean. Because Brandon King was the one who was earmarked. If you lot follow the stats and follow West Indies development from about 2019, after Brandon had his breakout season with Amazon Warriors, he was earmarked to be the West Indies T20 opener, and he got his chance. And I love Brandon. Like, Brandon's my guy. Brandon should be playing for West Indies in red ball cricket. But Brandon had his chance. He didn't deliver enough. And Brandon will admit that, though. Brandon would admit that he didn't deliver. If Brandon's trajectory had gone the right way and he'd followed up that 2019 CPL with a strong 2020, even an average 2021, he would be at the World Cup right now opening. But the young guys haven't shown the consistency to force the experienced guys out. You can't put that on the experienced guys. Chris Gale said at the start of 2021, in the way that Chris Gale does, Chris said the young guys aren't serious. So Chris said, that's why I'm making myself available again. Because I get it. From Chris's point of view, he's like, well, you lot aren't delivering, so I'm going to make myself available. And if I've got a guy with 14,000 T20 runs over somebody who's firing sporadically, I'm going to take the guy with 14,000 T20 runs. As Dino says, that's not necessarily that's not what we should be doing with a 42-year-old, but what I get it is what I'm saying. I get it. So anyways, boy, you lot getting me hot. I'm sweating out here. So some other points I wanted to talk about, which I think are wider problems, is so the middle overs. I don't know if you can count the England game, but certainly if you go back to the summer, there was an issue with the middle overs. And that kind of came to the fore again yesterday. I don't think West Indies have solved their issue with the middle overs. And this probably segues nicely into the point that everybody wants us to talk about, which is bringing in Ruston Chase. Now, not yesterday, before the South Africa game, I did a stream. And I said that I would have had Ruston Chase in my team for yesterday's game. So even though you lot know that I'm saying this, that, and the other, I would have had Ruston Chase in yesterday's game. And I said, bring him in. In fact, I think I even said, drop Gale and bring Chase in. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I said that's what I would do. Dino, what do you see our middle overs problem as? Is it that we've got our entry points wrong for certain players? Are our players just out of form? Are we not playing the right matchups? Do we need a Chase in there to try and do what Rassie van der Dussen did for South Africa yesterday? Because if you watched Rassie's innings yesterday, he went at a strike rate of like 85. I think he was like 39 or 47 or something like that. But he just kind of did a bit of dibbly-dobblies, ones and twos, and allowed Markram when he came in to start doing what he needed to do. What's your view on us in the middle overs, Dino?
Ooh, that's a tough one, huh? This is a one being thrown around the West Indies everywhere. What do West Indies do in the middle overs? I'm coming for you, man. Listen. West Indies, I'll deal T20 only, right? West Indies are the most aggressive team. Darren Sammy said it in the game yesterday. We look in boundaries. He said it during the game while the game was in the balance. We're looking in boundaries. Pollard have said it. They've said it since 2016. I have some quotes here from 2016, which are very interesting, if needed, about, I'll just say one of them, right? In the 2016 World Cup, Coach Simmons, was it Coach Simmons? It says, Simmons, this is an ESPN article. Simmons would meet with Gaurav Sundararaman. That's a team analyst. He works at Cricket Info. And every day they would discuss matchups, the best and worst player combinations, every day. That guy was working with West Indies. It went on to say that Carlos Brathwaite knew where Ben Stokes was probably most likely going to bowl to him. He had an idea where Ben Stokes was going to bowl to him. That was something they discussed. Listen, in that interview, since that World Cup win, and during that World Cup win, West Indies adopted the aggressive attitude that they are going to deal in boundaries. Now, no other team in the world has done this, and there's many other flaws in this strategy. It's a high-risk, high reward strategy, right? Do West Indies have the personnel for the strategy? Yes, but at the same, but they go toward this every game. And look, our guys are suited to it. We have the guys to do it, but are we do we have the guys now as to 2016 to do it? Maybe not, right? And do we have the backup, the full squad? You just talk about, we just spoke about experienced guys versus youth, right? So maybe the squad is not best equipped to do that in this competition. And if they do that, then matchups are key. And I would personally, if you're doing this and you're attacking everyone all the time, right? You have to have 4 guys padded up. and you have to keep left hand, right hand going, which is what I alluded to. If Pollard would have come in, if Simmons were out, you want to attack the middle overs, then attack the middle overs. Have something dynamic in place to back up your strategy. You can't just come to us and say, well, the strategy didn't come off today and we made 60, because this is always the risk. And it's happened how long has it happened? Since 2016 to now, it's continued to happen. West Indies have collapsed many times in the T20 because of this approach. Now West Indies are going to say, look, have the guys to do this stuff. But Chris is not going to help that cause. All right, so you have to have a combination in the middle, left hand, right hand, with 3 or 4 guys padded up. Because look at our batting lineup in the middle. Anybody can do the role. It's just about getting the guys in at the right time. I like what Pooran did. That's fine. But then settle down after that. Okay, Pooran smashed it, 200 strike rate, out in whatever. Then get back to normal. All right? That's why Gale at that point is not the guy for that middle overs at that 100%. Point. Right, and that should and the team felt bad. Now, what do we do with Gale? We got to put him here now. Whereas it would have been Hetty would have been the guy for that. We knew that. Everyone knew that at that point in the game, when Pooran is out, smashing a 200 strike rate, it's got to be Hetty. You put Gale in there in the middle overs. Yep, okay, Simmons did what he did, but you put Gale in there. That alone too is not going to be. As soon as Gale come in, commentators go, "Oh, we're not going to see any singles or twos here." And Gale runs a single immediately, because that's just critics, right? But you get what I'm saying. I know I've been talking for a bit, but you understand that point of view.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I'm glad you basically agree with my point. I'd said earlier on that when Pooran came in, as far as I was concerned, Gale was done for the rest of the match. I would have brought him in when Hetmeyer came in. Hetmeyer should have followed Pooran and so on and vice versa. Gale, you would have just brought him in if there was like, I don't know, 6 balls left and you go, just do what you can do. Because it had gone too late in the innings for Gale to come out. So that was shambolic tactics. I ain't going to lie. Ronald's point here, why do you want to put Gale at the top of the overs? You lot are living in the past. Pakistan openers ran singles. I don't know what it is about us in the Caribbean where we just talk about we need to run 1s and 2s. You lot, this is why I'm critical sometimes of Caribbean fans. Study T20 stats, people. Just study, please. And I'm no analyst. Dino can tell you more than I can, but I know enough to tell you this. The teams that have the highest boundary percentage win T20s. So I think this mindset that we seem to be stuck on in the Caribbean about what about the singles and what about the 2s? Yeah, don't get me wrong, that it keeps the scoreboard ticking, but that's not winning you the game. So you cannot. The West Indies' strength is still a strength. They're not adaptable with that strength, but if you lot want them to go to the 1s and 2s strategy to take away from their 6 and 4 hitting, that they're not going to win the games. It's the 6 and 4 hitting that does win them the games when they actually do win. So we need to understand about I don't know if you want to talk about that, Dino, in terms of just T20 strategy in general.
Yeah, I mean, look, high risk, high reward is what we do. And this is always going to be the way it's going to go. The reason now that it's going to be more difficult is because it's kind of like a gung-ho strategy. Everyone knows that you're coming for them. Look at what South Africa did. I can show you statistically how many balls were on the wide line, because it's the hardest to free your arms at the wide line. Whether it was a spinner or a pacer, they bowl wide of the West Indies. So they have to reach for the ball and they can't make contact off the middle of the bat. And that's why and that's how you counter guys who are swinging at you all the time. Look, I was a bowler, semi-pro cricket, and I've worked with many bowlers, right? Bowlers have an instinct to know when a guy is coming at you. You bowl one of them and it's a dot ball in a T20 game. You know, most often he's going to try to hit you the next ball. So if you look at a lot of the deliveries that West Indies get out, it's actually just subtle variations of pace in the same slot that the bowlers are bowling, knowing that the West Indies guys are going to go hard at it. So that's one of the risks that West Indies play. And that's why the dismissals look very soft and they look like, oh, what's that shot on? It was too risky. They will always play. The amount of risky shots I've seen West Indies play preparing for this World Cup, any coaches would be pulling their hair out. But the reality is these guys can hit against the spin, against the breeze. You know, we've got guys, exceptional cricketers. So this is the strategy we've worked with. Listen, I'll say this, right? I'll say this. This is a strategy we've done 2016. We've come with this team, prepared a team over a year or more to do this strategy again. If West Indies lose their next game, who do we point the fingers at? I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, well. Chatil, I just want to answer this question because I think if I answer this, it'll help everybody else with that who's thinking this, because I can actually answer this. So since 2016, this high risk, high reward strategy came. What's the win-loss percentage? So let me give you a lot of history lesson. When Darren Sammy lost the captaincy in 2016, which was because of the board's foolishness, right? The team got decimated. You never saw none of these goats again. Carlos Brathwaite took over and should never have been given the captaincy. And our win percentage on the Carlos Brathwaite, with loads of the players that we regard to be T20 stars, was 39%, right? Pollard then came in as captain in 2019 because basically in T20 cricket, we fell to number 10 in the T20 rankings. Pollard came in as captain as 2019. Our win percentage up to this point of the World Cup was 50%. And that's basic. And that 50% came with bringing everybody back into the fold. And if you think about it, that explanation that I've given you ties in with my criticism of the younger players not seizing their opportunity. Because after Carlos took the captaincy and Gale disappeared to play franchise cricket, Russell disappeared to play franchise cricket, Narayan we never saw again. Pollard was playing franchise cricket. Bravo was playing franchise cricket. The ones we consider our goats just disappeared off the scene. When Pollard comes back, he manages to convince the Bravos and all that lot to come back into the fold, and our win percentage went up. But I'm not happy about that. I'm critical of the fact that no one stepped into the fold. They've come back because no one stepped into the fold. And it's shocking that our win percentage is better with them in the team, because I'm looking at the younger guns saying, but you lot should have been the ones leading the team by now. And to be honest, I'm mildly critical of Puran and Hetmeyer. I'm actually mildly critical of them. I should probably be more critical of them. And let me explain why I'm mildly critical of them, right? Hetmeyer and Puran, I'm not saying they should be leaders of the West Indies team by this stage, but they've played enough games to not be called youngsters. For me, personally, in the T20 arena, right? And for all of you lot who want to call Chris Gale's stats, for example, I want all of you after this live or during this live, go and find me Hetmeyer's stats playing 2020 cricket for West Indies, and go and find me Puran's stats playing 2020 cricket for West Indies. It's not as good as you lot think it is. It really isn't. But you know why they're in the side? Because their ceiling is so high. Because they've proved it in other T20 competitions around the world. So this is why we've got who we've got. Because by rights, we should be looking at Hetmeyer and Puran's statistics playing for the West Indies and saying, are you not better than that internationally? But that's an argument we're not ready for that level of argument right now. So I'm not going to go too depth into that one. You know,
now, can I just say one thing on that, Marshall?
Yeah,
in terms of the statistics of the young guys, I didn't check the stats. I could tell you now, it's probably Lewis with the best stats in T20. Yeah. Why? Because Lewis has a cemented position in his and cemented role. It doesn't change. He knows what he's about day in, day out. He knows what. When you have Puran especially, who's floating in the order, whose role changes every game, who is this dynamic guy. Look, guys have to sacrifice, like you say, play for the team. How many times do guys sacrifice their wicket for the team going aggressively? This is something that guys don't take into consideration in terms of stats. How many times Pollard at the death or Puran at the death just give away the wicket going for that extra hit at the end, trying to get wickets, so stats get skewed. Whereas a team would appreciate. Look at what Puran did today, 200 strike rate off of 6 balls, right? The team appreciates that. It doesn't do well for his average, maybe his strike rate, but the team appreciates that, right? And that's what you can do in T20. T20s are a lot different from that's why they're trying to drop it to how many 30s made and this sort of thing, trying to add more relevance, because there's a lot of more relevance happening just in those little micro stuff happening in the game. So I agree 100% with you. They need to show more responsibility, but do they have a locked position in a locked role to say maybe Hetty for sure at 3? If he wants to lock that position, I'd love to see him be as consistent as Lewis. And on a T20 team, you want to talk about openers, like we mentioned Brandon King. Let Lewis be the benchmark of where you want to be as a T20 cricketer, all right? This guy failed a fitness test, dropped from IPL, all right? I'm lucky to know him. I just see on social media, ever since that happened, every day the man's in the gym, or at least he's showing us that he's working every day at it. And look at what he's done since his return. So I don't see, if a guy like Evan can do that, I don't see why other guys can't put in the work and do it. And it just shows he is a benchmark for success. So when guys, Rutherford fails a fitness test, whoever fails a fitness test, get to work, guys. We want to see you back. We want to see you back out here. All right. And just the younger guys, oh man, I lost my train of thought with it. But the younger guys need to really be consistent. I think they need more opportunities in the CPL. And I'll say a little bit of controversy. Leave one of the foreigners home, man, and give one of our guys a chance in the CPL. And let's get some more guys in the pool.
Yep. There's an argument to say Ayana, who's based in Barbados, Ayana Holder. Don't know how many of you know her, but she's been saying and interacting with us on Caribbean Cricket for a while, saying we should have a Caribbean T20 tournament outside of CPL, because CPL is just a one-off. So you basically, so let's take a random player. Let me think of a random young guy. Let's take a Kanar Lewis. I know he plays T10, but forget T10 for now. All right. So Kanar Lewis does well, and by well, relatively speaking, well in this year's CPL. What T20 tournament is he playing till next year's CPL? He's not playing because there's nothing for him to play. So our players can't. They're not going to develop like that. So I feel like we need another T20 tournament, which Cricket West Indies, obviously we haven't got the money, but which Cricket West Indies takes responsibility for across the region. It would have fans, because the fans like coming out to T20 cricket. You can still go back to calling it Jamaica, Trinidad, Barbados, and in fact break up the Leeward Isles, make it bigger. So go Nevis, go Grenada, go and make it a bit bigger, like we used to do, basically the original T20 tournament, and you give people more exposure. Like you say, as with everything in the Caribbean, though, finances and sponsors. So I'm talking a fantasy world right now, but that's what we need. Do you disagree with that, Dino?
I love the idea, and Marshall, I tend to deal in solutions, right? Here's a simple way to make something like that happen. Every domestic league here in Trinidad, we have our Trinidad T20 league that Pollard and Narayan and everyone plays in here. So that's just our clubs. They play for Queen's Park and other teams. Simmons is with another team. So our local domestic T20 is very good. It's world class to have these guys, right? So we bring in Trinidad, we are allowed maybe 2 or 3 foreigners. So guys from the Caribbean come to our league, right? We are lucky, we haven't had anything for the last 2 years, and the league has been slept on, but that league is a top league. Now, why not have the champion of Barbados club play the champion of Trinidad club and Jamaica? So a club Champions League, that's one. A T20 club Champions League, that's one. That's going to drive T20 in every single nation to say, hey, we can go and play against Pollard and these guys, if we're assuming Queen's Park wins, right? But that's not going to happen. But, but that's what it is. And or the Caribbean T20, again, is a very good idea. And it doesn't have to be like 1 month bang. It can be traveling over a period of time, or a tournament space it out over 4 months. Every 2 weeks you go somewhere, or 3 weeks, so every month you go somewhere, and space it out over a period of time as an ongoing tournament. There's a lot of solutions out there, Marshall. We just need the right minds to make it happen.
100%. And for people who want an example, and I know there's lots of Caribbean listeners on there, big up everybody who's actually in the Caribbean listening. But in the football, we have the Caribbean Champions League. So if we can do it in the football, and if a Waterhouse in Jamaica can go and play Western Connection in Trinidad to see who makes the qualification to go and play in the CONCACAF Champions League, you mean to tell me that who don't want to call in Jamaica now, that Lucas Cricket Club can't play Queen's Park? You mean to tell me that's not possible? So Dino's right, but like you say, Dino.
No, it's there, Marshall. We will get there. Listen, this COVID period has accelerated the growth of the game, actually, because it's made the cricket world a lot smaller. That's why we have been able to connect. That's why the fans are here, and we love hearing from the fans. The world is getting smaller, and opportunities will become more. We've heard 2 IPL teams come in. It's growing. So let's grow the game. The COVID thing we're hoping will slowly get back to normalcy next year. And when the cricket reopens in full, let's get these initiatives going. You have time to plan for it. All the powers that be, let's get the cricket back. All of the players are traveling the world still trying to earn a living. What about the fringe players who can't make the World Cup? These guys have nothing to play. 1 month of CPL, 2 months of CPL. What is that going to do to put bread on a cricketer's table? Let's get things happening for these guys.
Jatil, just deal with this point. They didn't light up the World Cup till 2012, yeah, but they were still getting to the semi-finals. I went to the 2009 World Cup, which was in England, and we got to the semi-finals that day. I believe Sri Lanka knocked us out. It was a rain-affected match. I remember it because a young Pollard, if I'm right, was in that competition. And I'll just tell this quick story because it's funny. And I was in the stand with loads of Jamaicans behind me. I didn't even know them, but I don't know who was bowling to Pollard, but everyone was cussing Pollard out because he wasn't going for sixes. I'll never forget that. But we lost that day in the semi-final in a rain-affected match. And you have to remember, that was 2009. So that's approximately... what's that now? That's 12 years ago. So Pollard would have been 22? So I do think that when we're talking about, listen, yes, we didn't win till 2012 and then 2016, but these players we're talking about were generational talents. Let's not sleep on them. They weren't just ordinary young guys. Like Lewis, out of the ones we've got now, to me, Dino's called it, Evan is actually probably, we don't talk about him as much. We talk about Pooran and we talk about Hetmeyer, but Evan's actually, in the context of 2020 cricket, he's a generational talent. And there's a difference between that level, the Evan Lewis level, a serious Evan Lewis, and kind of like a Kanar Lewis. It's not the same thing. I think we think it's the same thing, but no, like some of these players that became the superstars were actually generational talents. And we've just taken that for granted as opposed to just thinking, oh, they just got better when they got better. In the same way how Brian Lara was a generational talent. That's why not many players were, well, no one was like him. Unless you want to call Shiv in a different kind of way. Anyway, so Dino, we got 3 games left. Bangladesh on Friday, Sri Lanka some days after that, and then Australia to end it all. We are very unlikely to qualify, but it's not over yet. The only question to ask at this stage is, just give me your team. Just give me a team. I'm not even going to call names. Just give me your team.
You ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Off the top of my head, my knowledge is that Bangladesh are weaker to pace bowling and they don't like the short stuff. Mm-hmm. I would consider O'Shane Thomas for this game.
I've got him in my team.
And for the Sri Lanka game as well. That's definitely got to be playing on West Indies' minds. It's the problem as who does he come in for? That's going to be the problem. And it might be Hayden Walsh that just go out on a limb. I mean, this is just my personal opinion. It might be Walsh for O'Shane because, the Bangladeshis see their fair share of spin. And, I personally have seen them uncomfortable to the short stuff. So, I think that is the change that I would see coming. Will they rattle the cages with Gale and Simmons? We'll see. But yeah, I think in a must-win, absolute must-win. I heard all the scenarios that you put in there. Look, I'm not even going to try. Look, you just got to win. You just got to win. And then when it comes down to Australia, they're going to say, well, we need to win by 50 runs or whatever the case may be, But so just try to win and, 3 games and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm really interested to hear Dino have O'Shane in. I mean, I've got O'Shane in my team for the Bangladesh game. I can't remember who said it earlier on, high risk, high reward, or high risk, low reward. But I have O'Shane Thomas in my team for Friday's game. I have Simmons out. I have Gale opening, although I think they may go with Fletcher, but I have Gale opening, and then I have Roston coming in. So if Simmons goes out, I have Roston coming in for Simmons, and I think everybody else pretty much stays as they are. Sorry, Lendl, did I miss one? I didn't even realize. Whoever sent that super chat, apologies. Oh, it was James. Yeah, big up the Caribbean Cricket Podcast community. And do you know what? Thank you, James, by the way. Sorry I didn't see it earlier on. Can I just say, when we say Caribbean Cricket Podcast community, by the way, that's not me and Santoki. That's Dino. That's Nikhil. That's all of you lot, man. Because it's all you lot that actually keep this going. When we started this, I'd never imagined that we'd be connecting lots of people in the Caribbean, in the States, in the UK, in Canada. Because at the end of the day, the love for West Indies cricket will always be there. No matter how bad we are, it'll always be there. So thank you everybody who always engages. If you didn't and you're new, press subscribe, press like, etc. There was one final thing I wanted to talk about, but I cannot remember. Oh yes, one final thing. Although we did this video about the T20s, just to give everyone an update, there is a best versus best game going on in Antigua at the moment. So if you don't think after the 2020 World Cup's finished that it's just over, we're straight back into tests. We go to Sri Lanka. So in the best versus best game, Team Blackwood is currently batting and they're 100 runs for 2 wickets. Kieran Powell out for 31. Shane Mosley out for 39. Bonner and Blackwood are at the wicket. Bonner 23 not out. Blackwood 5 not out. And Rakeem Cornwall has taken both of those wickets. And I don't want to make this about Test cricket, but I do just want to say to people, go and follow that scorecard over the next 3 days, because the big things we're looking out for ahead of Sri Lanka, who is going to open with Craig Brathwaite, because that position is open. Are any of the middle order batsmen going to put pressure on Bonner, Blackwood, Mayers, Chase for one of them to lose their position? And who is going to be the second spinner to go with Rakeem? Because Rakeem will play in Sri Lanka, but will it be Vasami Purmo, or will it be Jamel Warrican, or will it be somebody else that that partners Rakeem Cornwall in Sri Lanka? So, don't know if you wanted to talk on anything to do with the tests, Dino, before I wrap up.
No, just with that best v best game, I tell you, man, I wish I could have seen that game, because some of the most competitive white clothes games I've seen are trial games, right? These guys are literally playing for a spot on the test team. That's gonna be look, we in games like that, you got to be careful. Guys don't purposely injure guys. Now that's a semi joke, right? But that's how competitive those games are. So the intensity level in those games are high. Whether they like it or not, the guys are literally forced to compete with each other. So it's a good indication. I wish we could have more games like that. For example, I wish we could have the backup T20 team play the current T20 team, and let's see who wins, right? And let's see who puts pressure on to take the spots. That's how competitive those games are. I would love to see more of it in the West Indies, just on that.
Most definitely. And for those who don't know, Johnny Grave, or Jimmy Adams, sorry, has stated that first-class cricket is scheduled, we'll see, but is scheduled to return at the start of next year. I'm hopeful about that, but I want everyone to remember, as much as that might be the case, it all depends on the chief medical officers in respective countries. So Cricket West Indies can have the best will in the world to get this off the ground. But if the chief medical officer in Trinidad says no competitive sport, no competitive sport. Like, for example, Prime Minister of Jamaica, Prime Minister Holness, has just announced that there will be no fans allowed at Jamaica versus United States in the next set of World Cup qualifiers. So each individual island is still doing their own thing with regards to how much freedom or restrictions there are to have sport taking place. So we're approaching nearly 2 years of no domestic cricket. It's it's amazing that West Indies have even won any games in that period of time, to be honest.
Man.
Any last comments on that? Because you're in the Caribbean, Dino, so you can see it firsthand in terms of the impact that's had on the domestic game.
Yeah, I mean that there's sports scientists out there who will tell you that youngsters not being in a structured environment or not being part of the system actually lose out in the long run. We can run the risk of losing a generation, a gap of players. Some might say we have already lost it, but that is the risk. So we need to have, yes, without the ability for our guys below the elite level, and the grassroots guys are the ones being neglected in this period. So there's nothing for them. We should have had something in place, ongoing stuff, whether it be digitally or once a week, or try to get bubbles going, or for these things. I would have loved to see a bit more impetus from the governments to do that. That being said, from the news, it's going to be an under-19 World Cup. I'm hearing that it's in Kitts and Trinidad, so we got bubbles there. I can tell you now, I will be at the ICC Americas qualifying tournament in Antigua next week. I'll be joining a team there. So around the Caribbean, there's bubbles happening. There's cricket being played, but we need to open it up more to get our youths going. We have an under-19 World Cup coming up. We will have a team there, West Indies. how prepared are they, having lost 2 years without youth cricket, right? They would have just had a couple camps and matches if possible. They would not have been prepared as our other youth teams would have been. That's it really in terms of cricket around the Caribbean. We just need to get the cricket back and going as much as possible, especially for the young cricketers to come in.
Lovely, lovely, lovely.
Yeah.
Listen, everyone who's been on this live, when I started this one, this has come in like this one came in like it was Mason and Guest radio show or something. But we've gone for nearly an hour. In fact, we've just gone over an hour today, but time flies when you're talking about West Indies cricket, you know. So big up everybody who's been in on the live. If you know anybody who loves West Indies cricket, wants to find a community where they can find out about what's going on, tell them about Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Listen, we've lost our first 2 games. It's Bangladesh on Friday. Let's still rally. The team may well come to the party on Friday. Results may well fall our way. So let's rally behind them. Let's hope we get the selection right. Let's hope we get the mentality right. And we'll drop another live stream at some point, maybe one tomorrow. I don't know, probably after the Bangladesh game. But stay locked in, people. Thank you, everybody who was part of this live today. Dino and I will be back. We're discussing some things in the background about Caribbean Cricket Podcast and Dino and this, that, and the other. And Santoki will be back sometime next week. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day.